Now on BBC One, the lunchtime news with Kylie Pentelow.
Today at 1, calls for a police investigation into the post office after the BBC revealed the company knew of flaws in its IT system. Rishi Sunak faces criticism after giving a knighthood to one of the Conservative Party's biggest donors. UN's top court orders Israel to allow urgently needed aid into Gaza to try to avert a famine. Long queues for motorists waiting to board ferries at Dover as the Easter getaway begins.
Look like a proper rude boy. What's a rude boy?
And a love letter to the West Midlands. The creator of Peaky Blinders is back with a new drama set in the 1980s. Good afternoon. A senior MP has called for a police investigation after secret papers seen by the BBC showed the Post Office continued to fight compensation claims brought by sub-postmasters despite knowing its defence was false. Labour's Kevin Jones, who sits on the Horizon Compensation Advisory Board, has called the Post Office's actions an abusive use of public cash against innocent people and said there would be no justice until someone was brought before the courts. Here's our business correspondent, Mark Ashdown.
It's the latest twist in this ongoing drama, and now there are calls for the police to widen its investigation into the Horizon scandal. The computer system designed by Fujitsu and used by sub-postmasters to tally their accounts was central to hundreds of wrongful prosecutions. Now a secret draft report from 2017 uncovered by the BBC shows the Post Office spent £100 million fighting court cases even though it knew its defence was untrue. Commissioned by the Post Office, the Bramble report by Deloitte found that Fujitsu employees had the ability to amend or delete transactions entered by branch staff. There would be no flag to a postmaster if a change had been made, and those changes could cause a shortfall in branch accounts. It also said a malicious actor could potentially change data, although there was no evidence this actually happened. Janet Skinner, a former sub-postmistress from Hull, lost her job and was sent to prison in 2007.
They could have prevented that court case. Do you know, the 555 others that went to that court case, they could have prevented that and they could have saved a lot of time, money and tears.
The Labour MP Kevin Jones, who sits on the Horizon Compensation Board, is calling on the police to widen its investigation.
I do now think the police need to start looking at this. More will obviously come out at the public inquiry, but there's enough out there now, I think, to start looking.
The Metropolitan Police first started looking into the Post Office and Fujitsu back in January 2020. An investigation into potential offences of perjury and perverting the course of justice is ongoing, and the Met told us today it continues to monitor the evidence being heard by the public inquiry. The Post Office said it is deeply sorry for the impact the scandal has had on people and told us the next phase of the public inquiry would look at the issues we raised. Fujitsu Group said it regards the matter with the utmost seriousness and offers its deepest apologies to sub-postmasters and their families. A group of more than 500 sub-postmasters and mistresses won their first court case against the Post Office back in 2019. Earlier this year, every person wrongfully prosecuted was exonerated. But their long fight for full compensation and justice goes on. Mark Ashdown, BBC News.
The DUP party chairman has received a letter from Sir Geoffrey Donaldson MP confirming that he has been charged with allegations of an historical nature and indicating that he is stepping down as leader of the Democratic Unionist Party with immediate effect. Well, Jennifer O'Leary joins me now. So what more do we know?
Well, it's major political breaking news coming from Northern Ireland this afternoon. Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, the leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, that's the biggest unionist party in Northern Ireland, has confirmed that he is stepping down as leader of that party because he has been charged with allegations in connection with sexual offences. Now, it was confirmed this morning by the PSNI that a 61-year-old man had been charged following his arrest yesterday. We can state that that was Sir Geoffrey Donaldson. He has been charged with historical sexual offences. He is due to appear in court next month. But as you said, he has stepped down in his role as leader of the Democratic Unionist Party. And that will certainly cause major ripples across Northern Ireland.
Jennifer O'Leary, thank you. One of the Conservative Party's largest donors has been awarded a knighthood after being recommended by Rishi Sunak. Labour said the decision to give an honour to the billionaire Mohammed Mansour showed the Prime Minister didn't expect to be in office for much longer. Well, for more on this, our political correspondent Shelley Phelps is with me. So growing criticism, Shelley, over this.
That's right, Kylie. And as you said, Mohammed Mansour's award, this is the one getting the most attention. Now, he's a businessman, a Conservative Party donor. He gave £5 million to the party last year. He's also a senior treasurer at the party. Now, Labour have been very critical of the Prime Minister's decision. They say this is a self-indulgence. The Liberal Democrats have said that it shows that the Prime Minister is out of touch, while Reform UK accused the government of toxic cronyism. Now, Number 10 sources point to Mr Mansour's background, his charity work with places like the Prince's Foundation. In terms of other names on the list, there are 4 Conservative MPs. They include, for example, the Sports Minister, Tracy Crouch, Philip Davis, another Conservative MP. He used to host a programme on GB News with his wife, who's also an MP. And some interesting names from the creative and film industry. Christopher Nolan, for example, he directed Oppenheimer, won an Oscar for his work in that. I think the timing of the publication of this list is interesting. Bit of a surprise because it's come at Easter. We typically get them in the new year and the King's birthday in June. So 1 or 2 eyebrows being raised that this has happened in Easter and when MPs are on recess.
OK. Shelley Phelps, thank you very much. Clear-up efforts are underway in Baltimore around the bridge which collapsed after it was hit by a ship earlier this week. Footage released by the National Transportation Safety Board shows its investigators on board the container ship Dali. Fundraising efforts are underway for the families of the 6 people who were working on the bridge when it collapsed. 2 bodies have been recovered and the other 4 men are presumed dead. The International Court of Justice has ordered Israel to allow unimpeded access of food aid into Gaza, where sections of the Palestinian population are said to be facing imminent starvation. Well, let's speak to our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Nell, who's in Jerusalem. So, Yolande, what else has the court had to say and what's Israel's reaction been?
Well, issuing these new provisional measures, the UN's top court said that conditions in Gaza were catastrophic and that they had deteriorated further. It ordered Israel to open up more land crossings for longer, to let in more food, more water, more medicines, fuel, shelters, other supplies. Israel has responded to that, saying that it doesn't limit supplies. It's got a month to come back formally to the court with its response, but it is blaming Hamas for the conditions on the ground in Gaza and saying that it is also responsible for starting this war. Now, in a separate development, Syria is blaming Israel this lunchtime for attacks overnight in the northern city of Aleppo, which reportedly killed more than 40 people, mostly Syrian soldiers and also some members of the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah. Israel's military isn't commenting on that, but this has all raised fears of further fighting across this region.
Yolande, thank you very much. Yolande now there in Jerusalem. Now, the big Easter getaway is underway with 2.6 million car journeys expected to be made today and a record number of people planning to fly this weekend. But there are reports of long queues of motorists waiting to board ferries at Dover, and rail passengers are also being urged to check their plans in advance. Our transport correspondent Katie Austin has this report.
It's the busiest time of the year so far for travel, including for ferries. Queues built up at the port of Dover early this morning, with drivers reporting 2-hour waits. Some airports expect to get back to pre-pandemic numbers.
Manchester Airport expects to handle 320,000 passengers over the next few days, and they expect it to be their biggest ever Easter getaway.
Cape Verde for my grandma's birthday.
Oh,
yes.
Grandma Sheila?
Yes.
Is it a big birthday?
It's a very big birthday. I was 80 on Tuesday and we're all going off with the family to Cape Verde.
Oh, congratulations.
2018 was the last one.
Yeah, so you haven't been on holiday since 2018?
No, not outside the UK. So.
Wow, so looking forward to it?
Very much so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Bit of sun, bit of warmth, leave the rain behind for a few days.
After a very tricky few years, airports and airlines want to make the most of high demand. They and the main air traffic control provider, NATS, say they've worked hard to make sure things go smoothly.
We're working very closely with all of the airlines and with National Air Traffic Control Services just to make sure that we're all really joined up. And of course, we have on site our team of 100 people in the resilience team ready to respond to any issues.
Travel agents say Easter holiday bookings are well up on last year, despite prices rising and cost of living pressures. More people are booking late and more are choosing all-inclusive. People staying in the UK but taking to the roads today can expect major routes to clog up. While engineering works means some rail disruption. For example, London Euston Station is mostly closed until Monday. And damage to overhead wires caused big problems for the Stansted Express, serving Stansted Airport. However you're getting about, the best advice, as ever, is to plan ahead and leave plenty of time. Katie Austin, BBC News.
People on the lowest incomes will be able to have their debts wiped out for free as rules change in April. Debt relief orders clear existing debt on everything from council tax to energy bills and rent. But Citizens Advice say many people are unable to cover the £90 price tag, so that fee is about to be scrapped in England and Wales, as our cost of living correspondent Coletta Smith has been finding out.
A change is on the way to ease the pressure on those struggling the most.
Yes, I'm trying to encourage anybody who will listen, to be honest, that if they're in debt, that they can have help.
2 years ago, Jessie was in a bad way.
Yeah, £90 is a lot of money.
On her own with 4 children after a marriage breakdown, her debts spiralling.
I felt like I was only just about floating above the water anyway, and then when I realised how much debt I was in, that's when I started to feel like I was drowning, and it was quite scary, really.
So I'll take you through your debt relief application.
But at her local food bank, she met the team from Christians Against Poverty and began to get her life back on track. She was told she could apply for a debt relief order to clear all of her existing debts, but there was one problem.
To get the debt relief order, first of all, I had to pay a fee, which I couldn't afford because it was £90, which doesn't seem a lot to some people, but to me that's like 2 weeks worth of shopping. I was worried if somebody would...
Jessie was one of the lucky ones, given a bursary last year to pay the £90. But from the 6th of April, all applications will now be free, and Olu's application will be top of the pile. She lost her job in the pandemic and ended up using a credit card to try and pay off her bills.
Honestly, when I was told I had to pay £90, I felt like another stumbling block because I didn't have any money to pay for anything. So when I got that information that, yeah, you can get support with debt relief order, it was like a light switch in a dark place for me.
There are more changes coming in at the end of June as well.
The amount of debt that somebody can be in will be increased from £30,000 to £50,000. And if they own a car, it can be worth a little more, going from £2,000 to £4,000, and they're still able to apply for that debt relief order.
That's really, really welcome news, but it's not job done. For people who have debts over £50,000, they can't go into a debt relief order. They'll be facing bankruptcy, and that still has a £680 upfront fee, regardless of income levels. So that really needs to be looked at.
For Jessie, making sure her children have enough now isn't easy, but starting from a clean slate helps.
It's a life changer. It really is. No child should have to think about who's going to knock on the door. They should never have to live like that. So now they don't, and they could be kids again.
As more people face sliding into debt, this new escape route will be a lifeline for many. Coletta Smith, BBC News in Bridgnorth.
Now a look at some other stories making the news today. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has warned that Europe has entered what he called a pre-war era, and that if Ukraine is defeated by Russia, nobody in Europe can feel safe. His remarks came as a fresh barrage of Russian missiles targeted Ukraine. The teenager has been charged with attempted murder after a stabbing on a train in South London. Police were called after reports of two men fighting between Beckenham and Shortlands railway stations shortly before 4 p.m. on Wednesday. 19-year-old Rakeem Thomas has been charged with attempted murder and possession of an offensive weapon. The victim is said to be in a critical but stable condition. Soldiers and officers in the British Army are to be allowed to grow beards for the first time. However, facial hair growth will be routinely checked to make sure it's clean and maintained. The change in policy brings the Army in line with the RAF and the Royal Navy. Now, the creator of the BBC's hit series Peaky Blinders has described his latest drama, This Town, as a love letter to Birmingham and Coventry. Set in the 1980s, it follows the formation of a band as the two-tone music scene was exploding into the pop charts against a backdrop of civil unrest, as our reporter Phil Mackey has been finding out.
The early 80s in the West Midlands was a time of turmoil and civil unrest. Recently arrived communities who'd been the victims of violence and racism began to find their voices. A new musical movement dominated the charts, two-tone. This Town, set in Birmingham and Coventry in 1981, uses music as a backdrop to the social upheaval.
So you stay out all the hours of the night, get caught up in a riot, get beaten till you start CW and you talk about some girl. I'm in love with her. Oh, Lord.
Last year we got to see it being filmed in Birmingham. Levi Brown is the lead, whose character Dante joins a band. Coming from Birmingham, he already knows all the early 80s classics.
Growing up in Birmingham, you're kind of exposed to it very early on. You know, through parents and through just going to the pub, like you can guarantee someone's probably going to whack on a scar sheet at some point if the speaker's in the pub.
Of course, what they really hope is that this will be as successful as the last programme that the same people made set here in Birmingham, and that was Peaky Blinders.
The man behind both that and this is Stephen Knight, who's also built a new film studio in his home city.
I really want this to be a city of choice for people who are making anything, whether it's set in Birmingham or not. It's very much Birmingham and Coventry are characters in it, if you like. You know, they're really important. So we're shooting it here, shooting what's left of what was there then.
The West Midlands has changed massively since the early 80s, but some things have stayed the same. The Druids Heath tower blocks and the region's musical heritage. Phil Mackey, BBC News, Birmingham.
OK, it's time for a look at the weather now. With all the details, here's Elizabeth Rizzini.
Hi, thanks, Kylie. Well, a gradual improvement for most of us weather-wise as we head through the next couple of days. Here's a summary through the bank holiday weekend. Today, sunshine and showers. Fewer showers. It's a bit drier, a bit warmer over the weekend, but we'll see more rain in the south in particular on Monday, drier further north. Now, with all the wet and windy weather, of course, yesterday, there are a number of flood warnings in force, particularly up through the Severn Valley. Just something to bear in mind if you're still travelling for the rest of today. And on the theme of sunshine and showers, a lot of rainbows spotted by our weather watchers, including here in Shropshire. We've already seen some lightning strikes across parts of Pembrokeshire, some of the showers with some hail and some thunder, but generally fewer showers than we saw yesterday, more in the way of sunshine, and it could stay a bit drier across northern areas of Scotland. Still windy across England and Wales, particularly towards southern counties, but not as windy as yesterday. And for most, it's a bit warmer, 11 to 14 degrees Celsius. Now, as we head through this evening and overnight, most of the showers will fade away. Still a good scattering of showers, though, out towards the west in particular. And the skies will gradually clear for most of us. An isolated frost with quite chilly temperatures, really, and also some patches of mist and fog as well. But it's still breezy for part of the night, although the winds will lighten into tomorrow morning with that area of low pressure just pulling away towards the west. But look at this front, just giving us a little bit of patchy rain, perhaps across the far east of East Anglia and south east England, with a bit more cloud here into tomorrow morning. But there's lots of dry weather on the way for us on Saturday. Plenty of sunshine too. The focus for the showers will tend to be out towards the north and the west, but some bright sunny spells in between. It's feeling a bit warmer with quite a bit of sunshine around. Highs of around 13 to 15 Celsius for many of us. Now, don't forget that the clocks spring forward by an hour on Saturday night into Sunday, so we will see some slightly darker mornings for a while, but also lighter evenings on the way too. Sunday again, plenty of dry weather, but maybe a few showers out towards the west, but largely dry with a lot more sunshine to come. It's still feeling warm, but a little cooler, a little chillier, a bit cloudier out towards North Sea facing coast. Highs of 13 or 14 degrees. Now, as we go into Bank Holiday Monday, we've got this area of rain just moving up from the south, so there could be some wet weather across parts of England and Wales, perhaps as we head through Monday. Something to keep an eye on. Still some uncertainty in the forecast there, but probably drier towards the north, Scotland and Northern Ireland. A bit cooler, a bit cloudier again towards those North Sea facing coasts. Kylie.
Elizabeth, thank you very much. And that's the BBC News at 1. And now it's time to join our colleagues for the news where you are. From all of us here, enjoy your afternoon. Bye-bye.
Welcome to BBC London. I'm Lee Milner. Rowers taking part in the boat race between Oxford and Cambridge in London tomorrow are being warned not to enter the Thames after high levels of E. coli has been found. The pressure group River